Hello and welcome to A Genteel Black Hole, the home of my bookish rambles. My name's Ali, and I'm the kind of person who will read The Enchanted April in September. Somehow it's October already, so that means it's time for my September reading wrap-up. If you saw my August wrap-up, then back then I was having a bit of a weird month, a bit of a crisis in my taste, and September has, by contrast, been really good. I took the whole month off from reading my usual go-to genres of sci-fi, murder mystery, and fantasy. So instead, I focused largely on classics. And yeah, I had a really great time. In fact, this month had one of my favourite books of the year, possibly my actual favourite book of the year, and no real duds. I did have a couple of DNFs, but I didn't waste much time on them, so I don't feel too aggrieved at that. Everything I finished, I really enjoyed. So, without further ado, my first book of the month was A Room with a View by E.M. Forster. I had previously read one other E.M. Forster book, which was Morris, and that was okay. Maybe I'd enjoy it more if I reread it. But yeah, A Room with a View turned out to be probably my favourite book of the year. I thought it was absolutely beautiful and compelling and insightful and just all round wonderful. I read it on ebook and I loved it so much I immediately bought a paperback copy of it, as well as a copy of Howard's End ready for a future month. A Room with a View is the story of Lucy Honeychurch, a young woman of upper class, a well-to-do family. And when we meet her, she's on holiday in Florence, in Italy, with her chaperone, her older cousin Charlotte, or Miss Bartlett, who is a kind of very stern and proper spinster. As we first meet Lucy and Charlotte, they are complaining loudly in the dining room of their hotel about the fact that they were promised rooms with views, which they do not have. However, they are overheard by Mr. Emerson and his somewhat morose son George, and Mr. Emerson butts in and offers them to swap rooms because they have rooms with views and they don't really mind. They're happy to swap. However, Charlotte is being so prim and proper. She considers this more of an imposition than a kindness, and at first tries to refuse. She is eventually persuaded to accept the swap, but she's not happy about it, and she doesn't really approve of the Emersons at all. However, Lucy keeps bumping into Mr. Emerson and George during the holiday, and she gradually grows closer to George, and a budding romance occurs, which is kind of Lucy's first stirrings of true passion, something which, as Mr. Beebe, the vicar, points out, was something that he always suspected was inside Lucy because of the way that she plays piano, but it had never come to the surface. She'd never lived her life the way she plays piano. If Miss Honeychurch ever takes to live as she plays, it will be very exciting, both for us and for her. However, Miss Bartlett, Charlotte, her chaperone, her cousin, puts up enough of a barrier that George is dissuaded from pursuing anything with Lucy, and Lucy ends up engaged to another man called Cecil, who is everything that Miss Bartlett and the rest of Lucy's family would approve of. He's of the same social class as them. He's very proper and upright, somewhat stuffy, somewhat controlling, and I do not like Cecil at all. He's a bit of a twat, in fact. But, that's how romance stories often go, isn't it? There's the obviously wrong suitor and the obviously right one, and Lucy is confused and torn between what she thinks she wants, what she's telling herself in her mind that she wants, and what her heart is telling her she actually wants. I thought the writing was just absolutely beautiful, and with ebooks, it's very easy to highlight favorite passages, and I found myself stopping to highlight things more than any other book that I've read, certainly this year. Yeah, I just loved it, and I feel kind of unable to elaborate further on why, but yeah, I just adored it, and I will definitely be reading more Forster very soon. I loved A Room with a View so much that I think I actually ended up with a bit of a book hangover, and the next thing I attempted to read ended up as a DNF. That was Ashendon by W. Somerset Maugham. This is a book of short stories. They're espionage stories set during the First World War, and Maugham actually was a spy during the First World War, so he knew of what he spoke. However, I think my problem with it was largely the fact that it inhabits that uncomfortable place between novel and short story collection. They are short stories, but they're kind of interlinked in such a way that it suggests a novel. But knowing that they are short stories, it just made me feel like surely each chapter should give me some sense of resolution or satisfaction before moving on to the next. And if I wasn't getting that from the individual stories, could I really expect it from the full book when I know they are short stories and there surely isn't like an overall plot arc across the whole book? I mean, maybe there is, and I just didn't read far enough to discover that. But yeah, it just wasn't doing it for me. And I found that with a lot of books that are short story collections, which kind of try to pretend to be novels. So I don't know. Maybe I'll try something else from Maugham that is an actual novel at some point. Although, to be honest, I wasn't loving his style enough to really want to do that. So, yeah, you're probably not going to hear me talk anymore about Maugham. I had much better luck with my next read, however, which was Cymbeline by William Shakespeare. September was Shaketember on BookTube. That's a month-long celebration of Shakespeare. And Cymbeline was one of the chosen plays for people to read to celebrate Shaketember if they so chose. And I so chose. Fear no more the heat of the sun, nor the furious winter's rages. Thou thy worldly task hast done, home art gone, and ta'en thy wages. Golden lads and girls all must, as chimney sweepers, come to dust. Yeah, Cymbeline's a strange one for sure. Definitely not a favourite Shakespeare play, but I really enjoyed the experience of reading it nonetheless. I don't often read Shakespeare plays that I haven't already seen, but I hadn't already seen Cymbeline, and yeah, I really enjoyed reading it and kind of picking it apart and trying to make sense of it and spot all of the other Shakespeare plays that seem to have been kind of mashed together into this weird Shakespeare soup that is Cymbeline. In fact, it kind of made me question my approach to Shakespeare just in terms of I've always sworn that it's better to watch a play before you read it. And yeah, I had so much fun reading Cymbeline without any foreknowledge of it that, yeah, I've decided I'm going to try and read a lot more Shakespeare. And yeah, more on that slightly later. I've also made a full video review of Cymbeline, so I won't bang on about it too much here. If you want to hear more about that, then I'll put the link somewhere. Having loved A Room with a View so much, I was on the lookout for similar vibes from books, and one thing that I spotted in the kind of recommendations, the people who read this also read thing, was The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. And they're kind of similar just in terms of they're both about English people on holiday in Italy, and both from the early part of the 20th century. The Enchanted April's from 1922. But they're also very different just in terms of, I guess, the age of the protagonists, in that Lucy Honeychurch from A Room with a View is, in the first flush of youth, it's very much her coming of age, her first experience of true passionate love. The women in The Enchanted April, however, are kind of closer to my age, and it's more about them rediscovering joy rather than finding it for the first time. Not for her were medieval castles, even those that are specially described as small. Not for her the shores in April of the Mediterranean and the wisteria and sunshine. Such delights were only for the rich. Yet the advertisement had been addressed to persons who appreciate these things, so that it had been anyhow addressed to her, for she certainly appreciated them, more than anyone knew, more than she had ever told. But she was poor. The story follows four women from different walks of life who all, thanks to a newspaper advert, end up staying at a small medieval castle in Italy. At first, the four women don't really get on that well, not in any sort of dramatic or histrionic way. It's more of a comedy of manners. It's the little things that kind of nibble away at everyone. But gradually, under the good influence of the beautiful surroundings and just the freedom, I suppose, of being on holiday and getting away from it all, they gradually form a friendship. Yeah, it's a really charming, really lovely book. The characters are all very distinct, very well drawn. I feel that you get to know them all very well, and I certainly felt a lot of affection for them all. And the writing is very evocative. The places and the people are all beautifully described, and I could see them all very clearly in my mind's eye. My only real complaint is just the story goes in a direction towards the second half that I wasn't fully on board with. And Rose and Lottie's husbands play a larger part in the story than I was expecting. But that's kind of almost my fault for expecting differently. So I think maybe if I reread it in the future, maybe I won't mind that as much, like knowing what's coming. Then again, maybe it'll annoy me more. So I guess we'll find out at a future date. And my last book of the month was more Shakespeare, and it's All's Well That Ends Well. And this was another one that I've never seen or read before, and I knew like basically nothing going into it other than the fact that it's a comedy, but kind of classed as a problem play. Those are Shakespeare plays that don't kind of neatly fall into any one category. So although it's technically a comedy, it raises some thorny questions, and the conclusion isn't like super satisfying. But that kind of feels like the point. In fact, there's an interview with Gregory Duran from the RSC in the copy that I read, where he says that he felt like the play should have a question mark on the end. You know, all's well that ends well. Yeah, that's probably fair. The web of our life is of a mingled yarn, good and ill together. Our virtues would be proud if our faults whipped them not, and our crimes would despair if they were not cherished by our virtues. But it was a really interesting experience to read it, and yeah, I look forward to seeing a production of it as well, and seeing how it works on stage. In fact, I am kind of tentatively planning a project where I'm going to try and work out which really works better for me, watching them first or reading them first. So I have paperback copies and DVD copies of a couple of different plays, and All's Well is one of them. So I've read All's Well, I'm going to watch it, and then I'm going to go the other way around with another play and see which works best for me. I'm not making any promises that I'll manage to make that video, but even if I don't manage to make the video, hopefully I'll find out just for my own satisfaction. Also, that's why I haven't really said much about what the play's about, because I'll save that for a future video, hopefully. So those are all the books that I finished in September. I do also have an audiobook on the go, which I mentioned in last month's video, and that's 3 Shades of Blue by James Kaplan, which is a non-fiction book about Miles Davis, John Coltrane, and Bill Evans. And I have been enjoying that, but because I don't have like a regimented time when I always listen to audiobooks, that's just kind of fallen by the wayside a bit. So it's not technically a DNF, but I haven't finished it yet. I've also started a reread of Masquerade by Terry Pratchett, which is the 18th Discworld book overall, and the 4th or 5th Witches book, depending whether you count Equal Rights or not. But yeah, I will talk about that in next month's wrap-up video. So those are all my reads for September, and yeah, it's been a really good month. So have you read any of them, or would you like to, now that you've heard me ramble on about them? Why not let me know in the comments and we can chat about it. Also, I've just started an account on Storygraph, which is a really nice alternative to Goodreads. It does all the stuff that Goodreads does, but you can also make more detailed statistics and graphs and stuff to kind of track your reading habits and figure out with more accuracy what genres or styles or even pacing of books or length of books you favor. So, yeah, if you want to follow me there, then I will leave a link in the description and you can send me a request. Well, that's about it from me. I hope you're having a lovely day, and I will see you when I see you.